At midnight, two people are brushing their teeth. One has $47 in a checking account and hopes rent doesn't hit early. The other has $47 million and just got richer while sleeping. Same toothbrush, same 2 minutes. Completely different life. That's the strange part about money. It doesn't just buy things, it changes time, stress, options, even the way mistakes feel. And most people imagine wealth like a straight ladder. More money, more happiness, better house, nicer car. But real life is messier than that, because every level of net worth solves one problem, then introduces a new one. So let's walk through your life at every level of net worth, from 0 to $100 million. Not the fantasy version, the real version. At zero net worth, life is expensive. That sounds backwards, but it's true. When you own nothing, every bill arrives like an ambush. A flat tire can become a crisis. A broken phone becomes debt. A bad month becomes a year-long problem. You don't buy quality because quality costs up front. So you buy cheap shoes twice, cheap appliances twice, cheap loans at brutal interest rates. This is where many people confuse income and wealth. You can make $60,000 a year and still live at zero net worth if everything you earn is already spoken for. At this level, your attention is taxed constantly. You're not just paying bills, you're managing uncertainty, and uncertainty is exhausting. Then comes the first major milestone, $10,000 net worth. To the internet, that sounds tiny. To reality, it can be life-changing, because $10,000 is not luxury money, it's breathing room money. Now the car repair doesn't require panic. The medical bill doesn't automatically go on a credit card. You can survive a few weeks of chaos without financial collapse. This is the level where money first buys emotional stability. Not yachts, not status, sleep. Then $100,000. This is where things get interesting, because six figures sounds rich until you price actual life. In many cities, $100,000 net worth might mean a paid-off car, retirement account, emergency fund, maybe some home equity. It's solid, respectable, real progress. But it often doesn't feel rich because it isn't liquid freedom. You still need your paycheck. You still care deeply what your boss thinks. You still can't ignore healthcare costs, layoffs, or housing markets. This is the first place people experience a strange irony. You've done well enough to lose sympathy, but not well enough to gain freedom. Then, $500,000. Now we've entered the quiet middle ground almost nobody talks about. $500,000 can look invisible from the outside. No private jets, no headlines. But financially, this is where compounding starts acting like a co-worker. If invested reasonably, $500,000 growing at 7% averages around $35,000 a year, before taxes without lifting a finger. That doesn't replace a high salary, but it changes negotiations. You can leave bad jobs faster. You can take smarter risks. You can say no more often, and no is one of the most valuable words money can buy. Then $1 million, the most famous number in personal finance, also one of the most misunderstood. A millionaire once meant elite wealth, mansions, staff, cigars for no reason. Today, in many places, it can mean a paid-off house and retirement accounts. You may feel comfortable. You may not feel rich at all. If that $1 million is tied up in a home, it produces no monthly income unless you sell, borrow, or downsize. If it's invested, a cautious withdrawal rate might generate around $40,000 annually. Useful, important. But not exactly helicopter money. This is why so many millionaires still work normal jobs. They're asset-rich, lifestyle normal, the label stayed glamorous, the math did not. Then $3 million. Now the game changes again. At this level, invested assets can begin supporting a solid upper-middle-class lifestyle in many regions without employment income. Not flashy rich, independent rich. Your decisions become less about salary and more about how you want to spend finite years. This is when people start redesigning life itself, move cities, work part-time, start businesses, take a sabbatical, see children more. This is where wealth stops being consumption and starts becoming autonomy. And autonomy is addictive. Then $10 million. Now you've crossed into something rarer. Even if managed conservatively, this level can support a very comfortable life, almost anywhere. Nice homes, travel, staff help, private schooling if desired, significant buffer against mistakes. But here's the hidden twist. Expenses scale faster than expected. Larger homes need maintenance, more assets need management, taxes become strategy, friends pitch investments, family expectations rise mysteriously. Everyone says money solves problems. Yes. Then it introduces premium versions of problems. You no longer worry about groceries. You worry about lawsuits, trust structures, concentrated risk, and whether the person being friendly actually likes you. The stress becomes quieter, more sophisticated. Then $30 million. This is where access becomes the product. Better deals, better lawyers, better tax planning, private investments ordinary investors never see. Rooms you didn't know existed. At this level, wealth compounds not just through markets, but through networks. And networks are powerful because they don't appear on spreadsheets. You meet people who can move capital, shape policy, open doors, close competitors. The public often imagines wealth as spending, but the real engine of wealth this high is positioning. Standing in the right room before the opportunity appears, then $100 million. Now, we're no longer discussing comfort. We're discussing influence. Because once personal needs are solved beyond reason, money changes purpose. It becomes leverage. You can fund companies, buy buildings, back political campaigns, shape media, hire teams to protect time, image, privacy. A bad investment may sting. It rarely changes lifestyle. That's a different universe from someone whose mistake means eviction. And here lies the uncomfortable math. If your $100 million grows 8% in a strong year, that's $8 million in 1 year. Often more than hundreds of workers around you will earn combined, not because the wealthy work 500 times harder, because capital scales differently than labor. Labor is tied to hours, capital is tied to ownership. That distinction quietly shapes modern life, and it explains why many people feel they're running faster while falling behind. Because if you live only on wages, you climb by effort. If you own productive assets, you climb while sleeping. That doesn't mean all rich people are lazy or all workers are trapped. It means the machine rewards ownership differently than effort. Always has. Now zoom out. At $0, money is survival. At $100,000, it's stability. At $1 million, it's security. At $10 million, it's freedom. At $100 million, it's power. Same concept, different function. And yet every level comes with adaptation. The person at 0 dreams of 10,000. The person at 1 million compares themselves to 10 million. The person at 10 million notices the billionaires. Human beings are remarkable at normalizing whatever once seemed impossible, which means wealth has two curves, the financial curve and the psychological one. Only one appears on net worth charts. So, what should you actually take from all this? Probably not the fantasy that one number will permanently fix life. Some thresholds matter deeply. The jump from fragile to stable is real. The jump from dependence to autonomy is real. But after a point, numbers stop changing comfort as much as they change complexity. And that leaves one final question. If every level of wealth solves something, but never everything, then how much money are people actually chasing? And how much are they chasing a feeling money can only rent?